It really was not that long ago when a lot of cyber attacks were fueled just by simple curiosity. Things like hacking into a school network just to see if it could be done, or defacing a website with a message or a joke, or even stealing a few passwords, but not to make money, but to prove a point.
Generally, if you look at the threat landscape over the years, in the 90s, it was experimental. So a lot of it was bragging rights. So it was in your face messages popping up on a system because a hacker says that they've owned you, they've got into your system, but there was no financial motivation or anything else, right? It was more about the bragging rights and really just showing the ability that they can get into system.
In those times, it was less about causing harm and more about just exploring digital boundaries, testing skills, or earning bragging rights. But back then, the stakes were a lot lower, and the consequences often weren't as severe.
Slammer, Blaster, Anna Kournikova, the I Love You virus, Michelangelo, all these different ones that were released. Conficker was another one in late 2000 that were just programmed to spread and destroy, right? So it was like a heat-seeking missile, but not it wasn't being used for monetization or for financial gain. So there wasn't a lot of cyber crime behind it, right? A lot of that was still this sort of just one or two hackers, if you will. It wasn't organized crime. They were developing some pretty serious stuff that was taking a lot of systems offline. But again, it was more destructive in nature.
It wasn't organized, it wasn't weaponized, and it wasn't crime as a service. But that world is long gone. I want you to take a moment and think about how much of your life is online now. Your money, your medical information, even how you get around the city. Now imagine what happens when a cyber attack hits those systems. Power shuts down, hospitals go offline, and transportation just freezes. Well, that is the kind of risk that we have to deal with today. And this is all part of what cybersecurity professionals call the threat landscape.
Yeah, so all of this comes down to the threat landscape. Two words, large surface.
To help us understand how this threat landscape has changed, we're joined today by Derek Manky, Chief Security Strategist and Global Vice President of Threat Intelligence at Fortinet. Derek works on the front lines of global security. He tracks cybercriminals, analyzes emerging threats, and helps stop attacks before they even happen. That gives him a very unique perspective on how the digital battlefield is changing.
So we talk about the attack surface, right? An attack surface, by the way, are all the different elements that an attacker can try to get into a network, into a human's mind. Part of that attack surface is also closed networks, it's operational technology, it's healthcare systems, all those things. 5G, direct from satellite, all of those things are part of the attack surface. But the threat landscape is encompassing not just the attack surface, but all of the above. So part of the threat landscape is that attack surface, but it's also the threat actors, it's the people, it's the organizations, it's the movement of cryptocurrency funds, all of those things, including crime services, tools, new ransomware and viruses that are being created. All of those things live on the threat landscape. There's the surface threat landscape and there's the deep dark web. So darknet, but mostly dark web. That's also part of the threat landscape. So it's very much a very vast area. It spans the world, and it's big, it's complex.
Another thing that's changed is in the speed of attacks. So a vulnerability is a weakness in software or hardware. But once it's discovered, attackers move fast to take advantage of it, and often before a patch is even available. Some attacks hit within hours of a vulnerability being made public. That's why updates and patches are so important. They close the holes that attackers are looking for. These days, criminals even share hacking playbooks with each other, creating detailed step-by-step guides to launch attacks faster.
So around 2010, we saw some very basic crime services that were being offered, things like DDoS as a service. So if you want to, an attacker would go in, they can go into a dark web forum, pay not too much money, a subscription-based fee to rent a botnet to go and launch a distributed denial service attack. So flooding a network, trying to take it offline. There were some basic things, some phishing services, right, that were available back then.
And now, machine learning and AI are changing the game even more.
So those phishing services now are powered by AI. The DDoS services are much larger and bigger. You can rent different horsepower, if you will, from these. There's also consultation services. With new technologies, we've seen those technologies monetize into services now. So things like deepfakes, right? Deepfakes, we've seen them out there, but deepfakes are now being offered as a service, a crime service that you could rent and use to do a impersonation of a voice to try to, get someone to give you their credentials and, username and password.
Attackers can automate phishing emails, generate convincing fake websites, and even adapt their malware in real time to avoid detection by antivirus software. Cybercrime has also evolved from being isolated hackers into full-blown organized crime. And ransomware, it's not just built, it's bought.
Initial access brokers is another one where attackers are just getting into a network, stopping there, and selling access into those networks, usually for around $100,000, right? That's the price. And now we're seeing like GPT, ChatGPT and all these LLM OpenAI models, that's also being weaponized. There's dark web AI crime services where you can go and rent a subscription to these services. You can ask a query, like if I want to try to get into a CFO's network in an organization, how do I do it? And it will respond with advice. There's Fraud GPT, Worm GPT. These are weaponized GPTs that don't have the ethical guardrails that ChatGPT has that will let you run full queries in order to create convincing phishing emails that you want an attacker would want to send to a victim. So that's complicating things now. The crime services are a huge business. We call it CAAS, or crime as a service.
But the good news is that cybersecurity professionals are actually fighting back. By understanding how past attacks happened, studying malware behavior, and analyzing threat intelligence, they can actually predict and block attacks before they cause damage.
And also understanding what they're targeting, what threat actors are targeting, what are the trends. And based off the trends, there's the modern threat landscape today, there's the past threat landscape, what we knew about and researched in the past, and there's the future. So a lot of part of my job and what we do is also predicting the future, but it's not pulling a rabbit out of the hat. It's based off of movement from the past threat landscape to the current threat landscape. What do we expect coming in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years? And a lot of that's based off of motivations, it's based off of trends from attackers, the threat landscape movement, and a lot of the times new disruptive or innovative technology as well.
And fortunately, the next generation of cybersecurity defenders is already stepping up. Future cybersecurity professionals and the people who understand vulnerabilities, machine learning, threat analysis, and ethical hacking, these are just some of the people who will be building stronger defenses for our digital world. Although the threat landscape is evolving and will continue to evolve, so will the defenders. And with the right knowledge and skills and teamwork, the future of cybersecurity is really bright.
It's been a great experience. It's challenging, right? There's a lot of good effort. Everyone wants to work together. Legally, it's difficult sometimes. There's privacy issues. There's new laws in different regions. So these are all the modern things that we're working towards together to overcome. But it is something critically important. And in fact, at Fortinet, it's even part of our CSR, our corporate social responsibility. So it's our governance that we make a mission statement that we need to do this because yes, we'll protect customers, but we want to go further to also protect society as well.
And that's where you come in. If you're curious about solving problems or if you just want to make the internet a safer place, there's a role for you here in cybersecurity. You can be a part of the next generation, build digital resilience, and help shape the future.